Hello, welcome to the video. Jurassic Park was released in 1993 and is seen by some as a sort of end product of the Dinosaur Renaissance, given its portrayal of dinosaurs is a lot different to previous depictions by films and shows. The Tyrannosaurus in this movie is shown in 4 key scenes. The first is its breakout scene, the next is the car chase, the Gallimimus flock, and the final one is the scene at the film's climax where it is shown fighting the raptors. The breakout scene is a very interesting and important piece of this film as far as its depiction of Tyrannosaurus is concerned. The dinosaur doesn't break out immediately, but is instead shown to be somewhat intelligent. There's a shot where one of its arms is on the electric fence, shortly before we see the shot of it swallowing a goat put in its paddock earlier in the film. In the shot where it stares towards Lex and Tim's tour vehicle, it appears interested in the tour vehicle, possibly because of the goat leg that landed on it, and realizes the electric fences are no longer electrified. From there, the iconic shot of it roaring as it exits its paddock is shown, where it slowly lumbers out. I think it's worth noting that it doesn't immediately go on the attack. It doesn't bolt after Gennaro and destroy the toilet he's in. It doesn't immediately destroy the tour vehicles. Instead, it's more interested in exploring an environment it's only now able to walk around in. In the first shot we see from inside Grant and Malcolm's tour vehicle after the dinosaur breaks out, we see it wander off in the general direction of where Gennaro went. But in the next shot from Grant and Malcolm's vehicle, we see that it is inspecting their vehicle and only heads towards Lex and Tim's car once Lex starts waving around a torch, unintentionally attracting the Tyrannosaurus towards her and Tim. It is also further interested upon hearing Tim close the door left open by Gennaro and slowly inspects their tour vehicle. We see it nudge the car and both kids start screaming just before it manages to break the sunroof and flip the car upside down. We see that the Tyrannosaurus has an attraction to light as it's interested in Grant's flare, all for it to then be distracted by Malcolm's and chases after him before crashing through the public toilet Gennaro was in and eating him. The flare, when waved around by Malcolm, seems to be something that excited the Tyrannosaurus, given it starts to become more active after chasing him. The Tyrannosaurus is then shown getting back to terrorizing the children and Grant, later pushing the tour vehicle into its paddock. One thing that's worth pointing out about this scene is how Lex is forced to be silent by Grant. The T-Rex does force them to move by spinning the car around, as if it's trying to see if they're there. Like it's almost aware of this film's universe's idea that Tyrannosaurus can't see anything that stands still. However, both Grant and Lex remain still after having to move because of the car, and the T-Rex either doesn't notice them or doesn't care and turns its attention back to the car. Another point of interest with this scene is that after Malcolm throws the flare away, the Tyrannosaurus still chases after him and probably would have killed Malcolm if he wasn't hidden by the wreckage of the public toilet covering him. And because Malcolm ended up being hidden under the remains of the building, the Tyrannosaurus eats Gennaro instead. A lot of people tend to say that Tyrannosaurus and other large theropods wouldn't go after humans because we wouldn't be worth the calories consumed versus calories expended. However, I think it at least makes some partial sense for the Tyrannosaurus to chase Malcolm in this scene. You see, while the raptors get an entire cow to feast on, we see the Tyrannosaurus only gets a goat. The goat is a lot smaller than a human in terms of stature, meaning humans would appear probably more appealing than a goat to a Tyrannosaurus in terms of food. InGen has probably fed this Tyrannosaurus only on goats so that way they can have multiple feedings per day and bring the dinosaur into view of visitors to the park more often. As a result, this Tyrannosaurus has at least been partially conditioned to eating things a lot smaller than itself. From there, this also explains the next scene we get of Tyrannosaurus. The next scene is the car chase, where the Tyrannosaurus chases after Malcolm, Sattler, and Muldoon. The Tyrannosaurus, because it's been fed very small animals relative to its size, is basically nature's form of a low power mode. It's desperate to get any calories in. And from there, it's safe to assume that the Tyrannosaurus is probably wanting to go on its own kill spree, trying to get as much food as possible. We see during the Gallimimus scene it ambushes the Gallimimus flock and manages to kill one, and Grant, Lex, and Tim make the decision to move away from the predator before it decides to perhaps try going after one of them. One scene I want to bring up also is that we hear the Tyrannosaurus in the electric fence scene but don't see it, and it's enough to terrify Grant and the kids into making the climb up the fence. The Tyrannosaurus, to a certain extent, might have noticed them and is at least moving in their general direction, hence why it also ends up at the visitor center. Again, we see the Tyrannosaurus is still hungry, given that when it grabs the first raptor in the visitor center, it looks like it's about to eat it, but gets distracted by the second raptor jumping onto it and proceeds to kill it. In conclusion for Jurassic Park, I think we can summarise it in that the Tyrannosaurus in this film is probably underfed, most likely so it will appear more often for guests to look at it. The only inconsistency with this logic is that it doesn't immediately show up to eat the goat in the paddock, but this could be because of the low power mode sentence I said earlier. Given the lack of food leads to a lack of energy. This helps as an in-universe way of explaining why we see the Tyrannosaurus in this film hunt things smaller than itself. I think it's also worth stating that quite often modern predators don't hunt large prey. Bears, big cats, crocodiles, sharks often hunt things smaller than themselves and rarely go after the largest animals in their ecosystem. While you might hear stories of lions and tigers taking on elephants, those stories are not as common as you might think. So, while humans are a bit too small for a Tyrannosaurus to want to hunt us regularly, it's not as unrealistic for Jurassic Park's Tyrannosaurus to try and hunt for humans in the movie as you might think. I'd dub this a more animalistic sort of depiction of Tyrannosaurus. It has some movie monster elements, but it's not a full-blown movie monster. We see it start off curious about the cars as it gets to explore what's outside its paddock, and only really becomes a killer because of it being underfed and then realising humans are edible. It's not like some other dinosaur movies where they are purely mindless killers.